Hello, this is Tyler Crane reporting live from your nightly news. We have an interesting story coming up involving an event that took place during the Vietnam War nearly 45 years ago, in which many Americans do not know about. This story involves a young lieutenant whose mistakes in Vietnam impacted America's perception of the Vietnam War forever. Stay tuned to hear more about the story of this young man. Lieutenant William Calley was a 25-year-old platoon leader in Calley Company, a unit of the Army located in South Vietnam. Calley was charged with 6 counts of premeditated murder and the death of 109 Vietnamese civilians during the My Lai massacre, which occurred in March 1968. Here's what happened. The company had been conducting a search and destroy mission on March 16, 1968. In search of the 48th Viet Cong Local Force Battalion, the unit entered the village of My Lai, but found that it was only occupied by women, children, and old men. The mission took up a lot of time and resources, as well as contributed to a loss of several men due to landmines and snipers. In total, Calley Company had lost 28 of its members due to death or injuries, and was down to just over 100 men. On March 14th, 2 days before the massacre, a Calley Company squadron encountered a booby trap, killing a popular sergeant and wounding several others. The members of Calley Company became frustrated, taking out their anger on the innocent villagers. Calley ordered his men to start killing the civilians. The men killed everyone, including infants, women, and the elderly. Women were raped, children were tortured. Calley was reported to have dragged dozens of people, including young children, into a ditch before executing them with a machine gun. Some victims were mutilated with the signature C Company carved into their chest. After the village of My Lai was burned down, there was a total of about 500 Vietnamese civilians, both dead and injured. Sadly, these victims had no part in the war. The events in My Lai had initially been covered up by the U.S. Army until April 1969, nearly 13 months after the massacre occurred. Ron Rittenhauer, a helicopter gunner in Vietnam, wrote letters to the President, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and 30 members of Congress. In these letters, Rittenhauer describes some of the atrocities by which the soldiers at My Lai had been told about. Calley was charged on September 5, 1969, with 6 specifications of premeditated murder for the deaths of 109 South Vietnamese civilians near the village of My Lai. Upon conviction, Calley could have been faced with the death penalty. Calley's trial started on November 17, 1970. On March 31, 1971, after deliberating for 79 hours, Calley was sentenced to life imprisonment and hard labor at Fort Leavenworth. This sentence caused uproar in the United States. Somehow, many Americans saw Calley as a war hero, that his actions done in Vietnam were justified. Bumper stickers were made, protests took place, and many Americans thought Calley was innocent. Under mounting pressure from the public, President Richard Nixon intervened on April 1, 1971, and ordered Lieutenant Calley be released from the Army stockade and placed under house arrest. Calley's sentence was reduced the following August and reduced again in April of 1974 when he returned to the stockade. When he was released on parole on November 9, 1974, Calley had served a total of 4 months in a stockade, despite being found guilty for the deaths of 22 Vietnamese civilians during the My Lai massacre. The My Lai massacre was an event that opened up the eyes for many Americans who did not have much of an idea about the events going on in the Vietnam War. People could now see the effects that war was having on the men fighting. This is one of the biggest atrocities of the Vietnam War and is one that should not be forgotten. Stay tuned with us tomorrow night to find out how the My Lai massacre and the Lieutenant Calley case relate to Tim O'Brien's book, The Things They Carried. Thanks for your time. Good night.